individual of great and admirable accomplishments. I was also puzzled as to why such a decision was made for me to keynote alongside this great Canadian icon. What I would say, I said to myself. I then went on to see a very experienced lady at the Institute who was probably involved in the process of selecting me to speak. I asked her, what do you need me to talk about? I don't know what to say that would be of interest to the audience. She replied, Joseph, I have seen your resume. Just tell us about yourself. So, ladies and gentlemen, I went in the library and prepared a 7-minute speech only about myself. I talked about how I feel blessed not to know how many siblings that I have. I also talk about how, as a young man, I was always afraid to be rejected by girls. I went on and on. The crowd was in love with me. They kept applauding and applauding, and I didn't want to leave the stage.
It's funny.
General Romeo Dallaire later preceded me at the podium, and he began to speak. He used a very sophisticated PowerPoint presentation. The images on his PowerPoint were incredibly moving, and as you will imagine, he talked about his experience as commanding general of the UN peacekeeping force in Rwanda. He shared with the audience his handling of the 1994 Rwanda genocide. General Dallaire talked about decisions he could have made, lives he could have saved. And he also went on to talk about how he got caught up in the complex bureaucracy. He felt corrupted by the structure and culture of red tape in big organizations. Everyone was moved by the expression of this great Canadian icon. After the speech, General Dallaire came looking for me at my table. He said to me, my young man, you stole the show. You told the right story. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you this story because I have grown up to learn that the art of living is a history-making process. General Dallaire and I provided the huge audience with an important food for thought. What we told the audience was a practical life experience, the histories of our lives. I believe that living is metaphorically a house construction process. A house in which you carry your guests and tell them what embodies your life. General Dallaire and I were both fortunate in varying ways to have been challenged in our respective lives. Ladies and gentlemen, I will let you know that I was born in a small village where even in the year 2012, access to basic services such as safe drinking water, electricity, etc. remains an elusive dream. I really do not remember how many times I've had malaria in my life. I was 16 years of age when the Civil War started in my country. Those of you, that was in 1989. Those of you who are very good in mathematics, you had already figured out that I'm 39 years of age. And those of you who love history, you would have figured out that I'm talking about 2 decades ago. I'm telling you this story because I could have been conscripted as a child soldier or consequently dead or living traumatized. Something very important happened that I don't often talk about, but if you are not opposed, I'm going to share with you today. I was a refugee in Ivory Coast for many years, but on December 12, 1996, my life changed from being a refugee to being an aid worker. The day before, I was on the line awaiting humanitarian aid. But beginning that day, I was at the end of the line delivering humanitarian aid. I went on to Paris and I was appropriately trained as an international aid worker. This wasn't by choice. I was lucky enough to work in many countries around the world over many years. In 1999, I was in Paris when my employers were debating whether to deploy me in Kosovo. Some said he's black and young to work there, but they later changed their mind and sent me to work. They concluded that my life experience of being a refugee was vital to their professional team. Ladies and gentlemen, I later went on to work for 2 years in South Sudan to manage a European Union funded project in Juba, the current capital of the new South Sudan. At that time, it was a military enclave. I went on to manage a United Nations funded food security and early warning system project in the Somali region of Ethiopia. I also went on to manage a humanitarian response in Sri Lanka during the tsunami crisis in 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, the story is long and I'm not going to tell you all of the fascinating details, but it made my life rich, and at least in my opinion. If you are not opposed again, I will emphasize that what I want to say here is that this experience shapes my professional values as I work in government here in Canada. I'm always passionate about the social development agenda. Young students, if you were born in Nova Scotia, lucky enough to be studying here, where you can be very close to your parents and friends, your life is a great history. Or if you ever choose to spend some time volunteering with a community organization, working on a social issue that you were not fortunate to see in your community, my good friends, your life is not only a great history, it is fulfilling. If you choose to do a co-op with a business that is interested in using market-based tools to address social problems in communities, your life is an admirable history. If you ever choose to spend a few months abroad, or even here in Nova Scotia, to try to discover the people who do not look like you and have different cultures and life experiences, you are making a life history that is worth sharing. This is the same for us professionals. If you have had to change jobs for whatever reasons, step aside of your comfort zone to travel to other places where the people don't look like you, where the people do different things to survive, or if you have had to join a group in Nova Scotia that is contemplating issues as poverty, inequality, and how to use innovation to address them, my friends, your life history is not only great, it is also rich and worth sharing one day. If you are involved with other people who are contemplating the issues that affect people who are on the margins of society, my friends, your life history is not only great, it is rich and fulfilling. If you do not have a job that guarantees you a wonderful retirement, or a job that gives you a generous salary, but have a job that allows you to question the essence of life, my friends, your life history is not only great, it is self-actualizing. My past experiences have shaped my life. This is why I'm telling you this story. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm equally aware that each of us here is different by the virtues of where we were born and our cultures, our interests, and so forth. We cannot seek to be the same. My life history is in no way richer than any other person in this room tonight. Karl Marx, for example, famously wrote that men make their own history, but they do not make it just as they please. They do not make it under circumstances chosen by themselves, but under circumstances directly found, given, and transmitted from the past. All we need to do as young students in this building is to simply live by the best parts of those circumstances that embodied our individual lives. In my role in government, and it's why I'm here today, I'm passionate about working on social entrepreneurship and the innovation that it embodies. Social enterprise as an innovative tool gives community organizations some degree of financial autonomy that allows them to advocate against injustices without any fears of losing their funding. This is an important value. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the points I'm trying to make here is, please get involved and be engaged whenever possible. The Paris-based organizations, Action Contre la Femme, that I work for, that changed my life, it is a sister organization of another organization known as Doctors Without Borders. These organizations use different tools of social innovation to acquire financial sustainability and remain committed to their founding values. In 1999, when NATO was using force to bombard Kosovo, the intent was right, but the use of force was wrong and disproportionate. They consequently made it difficult for aid agencies like the one I work for to work with those who needed humanitarian assistance. They created a dangerous environment that made it difficult for the angry population to differentiate those who were using force and those who were delivering humanitarian assistance. Doctors Without Borders, that you might have known, at that time decided to denounce the action of NATO. They decided to refuse any financial support that came from any NATO government because they believed that doing so would have compromised their founding values. Ladies and gentlemen, Doctors Without Borders could not have taken this decision if they did not have some degree of financial autonomy. This action gave them the 1999 Nobel Peace Prize. In their acceptance statement, they emphasized that humanitarian action is more than simply generosity, simple charity. It aims to build spaces of normalcy in the midst of the abnormal. Silence, according to them, has long been confused with neutrality and has been presented as a necessary condition for humanitarian action. From its beginning, Doctors Without Borders was created in opposition to this assumption. We are not sure that words can always save lives, but we note that silence can certainly kill. In this dysfunction, according to them, we will speak out to push the political to assume its inescapable responsibility. Humanitarianism is not a tool to end war or to create peace. It is a citizen's responsible response to political failure. It is an immediate, short-term act that cannot erase the long-term necessity for political responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that my point of telling you here tonight is that life is a history-making process. Please get involved with your community and be engaged whenever possible. It is a great way to make a fulfilling history for your life that you can share one day, as I'm doing here. Emily Durkheim once argued that the individual is dominated by a moral reality greater than himself. When you are not involved in this collective reality, ladies and gentlemen, you develop a wrong perspective that makes you feel greater than the moral reality that surrounds you. My fellow friends and young students, neither should you get caught up in silence. Silence has long been confused with neutrality, a neutrality that ignores the moral essence of life. Thank you very much.